Hello, and welcome to this episode of Andrea Lake 101, The Making of a Billionaire. Oh, you guys, you asked for it, you wanted it, you're getting it. This is part 3, Secrets of the Apprentice. Oh man, that's right. Yours truly starred in a reality TV show 20 years ago. It filmed in 2005. I believe it originally aired in 2006. No, I know that it did. I had heard rumblings because I do go to all these conferences and I just know a lot of people. I had heard in the wind, I don't even remember from who, at conferences that like The Apprentice was sort of being shopped around. I heard that last year, right before I recorded the first episode of the Secrets of the Apprentice podcast. And that either way, after the elections, regardless of whether Trump got elected or Kamala got elected, that The Apprentice was going to re-air on one of the streaming services. That was what I was hearing. And I was like, shit, fuck, really? Fuck. Wow, it's kind of been a blessing that it hasn't aired because I was, the ice princess, the villain of my season, if you will. It is kind of hard to make me look really villainous, but they did an okay job. There's literally scenes in the show where like I say something to someone, they say something back to me, I say something else, and I am wearing 2 different outfits because those sentences happened 8 hours apart. And then when I say the second sentence, generally speaking, it's something that's legitimately like really funny because I have a very dry sense of humor. But because I have a very dry sense of humor in the moment, you can't tell that I'm joking unless you're there in the room. And then after I say whatever it is I would have said, this happened a couple times in the show, there would cut away to someone like going, clutch my pearls, and how could she dare, and ba ba ba. But in the moment, what actually happened when I said whatever it was that I said was that everybody just laughed because it was actually really funny or witty or clever or whatever it was. And it was certainly probably sarcastic, probably a little dry, definitely not, meant in jest. So that was how I ended up looking like a villain. Reality TV shows, at least back then, had story writers and they would write a story arc. And then whatever character that they had assigned to someone, they would just earmark time notes of like, oh, okay, well, here they appear this way and here we can use this over here for that. And I was earmarked as the villain. But again, if you watch my season, you'll see I don't really come across villainous as much as just like a little bit aloof, a little bit cold, a little bit stoic. And in the first couple of episodes, there's just not that much of me in the first 2 episodes because there's 18 people still on the show and they're just barely starting character development. So let's just dive in to the second task, which was the Gillette razor challenge. And it was like a weird challenge. Now, remember, guys, I am not rewatching the series. I'm sure that I will at some point. And Mads at our Sticker Junkie office suggested that we do a viewing party, watch party as one of our outings events. And I was like, all right, that's fine. I will. It'll be funny. And maybe we'll watch episode 3 where I'm the project manager. But right now we're on episode 2. It is the Gillette challenge. And we had to go into Times Square and get people to sign up for a text advertising list to Gillette. And this was not a common thing back then. You might be getting charged data rates to receive texts. There was no smartphones yet. iPhone had not come out at this point. Cell phones were really different back in 2005 than they are today. So we are broken off into our team, and Pepe, the guy who became a congressman, Jose Diaz is his name, and he runs a great Miami tech conference now. So if you're in Miami, he's no longer a congressperson. He runs a Miami Tech Week and is a really good guy. And Pepe is what he went by then, or his nickname. So Pepe is running this project management thing, and the team is big. And it's hard to manage a big team, especially if you're not used to running a big team. And also, I didn't understand television. Carolyn, who is one of the judges on the show, literally did not believe me that I had never seen the show and that I didn't own a television. I'm like, no, really, I didn't own a TV. And I talked to her much later, a couple years later, and she was like, I just didn't think that you were telling the truth when you said that you had never seen the show. And I was like, no, I just knew Richard and whatever, all of the things. So Pepe understood clearly things that I didn't understand about, you don't want to maybe stick your neck too far out because it might get chopped off early in the beginning in a show like this, etc. And was sort of keeping everyone happy and not really ordering people around as much. And shit doesn't get done when you do that. I'm sure he knows that now. This is fucking 20 years ago. But shit just doesn't get done unless someone's like, you go over there, you go over there, you do this, you do this. Like right now, we got to crack this out. I have a spreadsheet. You're getting this allocated. You need to get this done. If you have 24 or 36 hours to do a really large task and you don't very swiftly allocate out to people, it's just simply not going to get done. Which is why so very often on that show, if you were a fan of that show, you would just see people end up with shit show disasters for their side of the task. Because if you want something, it's very similar to what I talk about on my podcast. Like if we want to close, $1 million worth of sales in December of 2025, we got to start working on the really big Fortune 500 clients now, today, right now, in order to keep up with the scale that we want a year from now. Well, the same thing is true on a task on The Apprentice. You need everybody to understand within the first 3 to 4 hours everything that they need to do in order to get your final vision accomplished. You need to come up with your final vision of what you want done, like in the first hour, or you're not going to have time to execute it. While on the show, it looks like, oh, this is a week. They had a week to do this. Nay, nay, my friends. It was like 24 to 36 hours. That was the whole entire time of the task, from the time that we were given the task and to execute on it and to give a deliverable at the end of it, all of which was being filmed. Maybe some of them might have been 48 hours, but I truly do not really remember any of them being that long. Generally speaking, like 36 hours. That is a very fast-paced thing to produce the type of things that we were being asked to produce. That's why maybe some things like they seemed like a great idea. They seemed like a great concept, but the execution, not great, because you have to deal with what you have, which is very, very little. So the concept originally that I could not for the life of me remember who came up with it. I sort of think it maybe was Allie. I don't know who came up with it, but someone came up with this concept of like, let's wear bathrobes, all being in the same bathrobes on Times Square. So the original concept, though, was for like sexy, cute bathrobes, right? Like maybe they still would be longer, not super short or anything, but they would be like nice, maybe silk bathrobes that would be on brand for Gillette, that would stand out. But that is 1,000,000% not what happened. Whoever the fuck was in charge of getting bathrobes last minute for this task got these very thick, incredibly unattractive bathrobes. We were still wearing all of our beautiful clothes. Some people's clothes more beautiful than others. And I know I've talked before about my custom-made Dolce & Gabbana suit that I had tailored to my body. Well, I am wearing the jacket from that right now. For any of us joining on YouTube, you can see people on audio. Just trust me, it looks nice. And I was a size 2 then, so the jacket doesn't quite fit me the way that it's supposed to. It's like this beautiful inlaid vest, and it's just gorgeous. It was a $3,000 suit. It's ridiculous. I remember when I bought it, I was like, whoa, this is 3 times as much as my first car. This is insane. But I was like, oh, I'm going to be on TV and like whatever. And there is a thing where if you are on television and you are wearing your clothes on television, you can write them off. That was, I don't know if that's still the rule at the IRS, but at the time that was the rule at the IRS. So I spent a lot of money on my wardrobe for the show. We have these just like bulky bathrobes that are so unattractive. I put it on over my suit and immediately this gorgeous, beautiful Italian suit has just like shitty fucking lint from this very cheap bathrobe, and it's tiny. It was so tiny I thought it might have ruined the suit. It was just like a sheen of whatever fabric was rubbing off onto my beautiful suit, which then I didn't get to wear again until almost the end because it took a while for them to get it dry cleaned for me because I couldn't wear it. It was just this very chaotic, embarrassing sort of task. So all of a sudden, our team is just like running around Times Square, which if you have been to Times Square in New York City, it's basically, that is the attention economy in real life. Everyone is trying to get your attention for something. There are, world famous street performers that perform out there all of the time, especially the ones who adapted to TikTok and started to release TikToks around their performances in Times Square. Everybody is trying to hand someone a flyer. Everybody is trying to talk to passerbys. New Yorkers, like if they'll just walk right past you, but they kind of stay out of that area if they can. And it's just a bunch of tourists. And we're like trying to capture their attention and get them to sign up for this text thing, which most likely is going to cost them money. It was just a shit show. It was just a shit show. And in the middle of the shit show, in this team that at this point was really disorganized, we had Brett, who had seen reality TV and did understand reality TV, and like nothing against the dude. He sort of understood the game actually like way better than I did. He was just arguing with people and creating scenes and creating issues everywhere that he went. And as a result, he got a lot of screen time, and he was like a lawyer. So my guess is that it worked out really well for him to get all this screen time and to be on the show. And he was eating bagels like constantly, on toasted bagels, which I don't know. I know that a lot of people like bagels on toasted, but it's just disgusting to me, an on toasted bagel with cream cheese on it, even though I love toasted bagels with cream cheese on it. So he's eating these constantly nonstop, but it turns out at the season finale that he did this thing called like the bagel diet, and literally all he ate for like 9 months or a year was like bagels just slathered in like an inch of cream cheese. And when he showed up at the finale, he had lost like 80 or 90 pounds. And I was like, that's so bizarre, but cool, like whatever works for you. But so he's eating all these bagels everywhere. There was so much cream cheese, and arguing with people was sort of my memory of him. But I don't dislike the guy like at all. But I did on the show because I was super annoyed by him, because his arguments would take up time and energy. And to actually accomplish the task, it's like, because I really wasn't in it to be a reality TV star, that was just like a side consequence almost. I know that sounds nuts, but watch the other episodes and it'll make way more sense. I really was so focused on actually like doing the best that I could on the tasks that I wasn't thinking about like, I want to do this so that I can get airtime, or I want to whatever. I was just like, all of us need to be firing on all cylinders if we're going to win, because everybody here has to leave in order for me to be the final one that wins. And I would like it best if it was everyone on that team, that other team than my team, that left first. So let's stay as tight as we can, as organized as we can, and get everything done. And Brett was just constantly causing disruption to that. So I just would like literally not talk to him. I'd be like, no, I am busy. You go talk to someone else. And if I was in charge of anything, he would just get allocated into the thing where he could cause the least amount of harm, because he was going to make a scene of it, not because he was incompetent, but because he wanted to be on TV, and that was his way to create a storyline for himself. So it wasn't even a bad strategy, but I was just super not here for it. So I already had no tolerance for this dude. That will come in on the next episode. You will notice today that I am not drinking alcohol. Why? Because it is 11:52 in the morning in Sedona. I got to come to Sedona for the week. So it's like slightly too early for me to drink alcohol, even if I'm doing it for the people. And so we're trying this Apprentice episode alcohol-free, but I am filming back-to-back episodes. And on the next episode, you bet your fucking bottom dollar that in a couple hours when I film that one, I'll be having some wine and I will spill the tea on the dirt that happens in episode 3. But for right now, we're on the Gillette challenge. We're in like the corporate offices at Gillette. Beautiful. And Brett is striking up argument after argument after argument after argument with people, to the best of my recollection. And then, someone engages with him. This woman was a friend of mine, Stacy. So Stacy engages with him, and she is this beautiful, brilliant woman. I mean, she is a prosecutor in New York. She's fucking tough as nails. She is as smart as they come. She had previously been in commercial real estate, and at the time was working as a prosecutor. She since then has become a New York Times bestselling author. She's just like a powerhouse. And like, she's a public speaker. She's just a fantastic person. And in a very sleep-deprived state that we all are, and high energy, everything going around, Brett got in her face and started yelling at her. And I did see like a part of this conversation, but you guys, it's 20 years ago, and I'm not rewatching the show because it's a lot to rewatch yourself on TV from 20 years ago. Just take my word for that. I hear him yelling obscenities at her. I did hear that. So I walk by and I see Brett just like screaming at Stacy in her face, very, 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 way too close, way in her personal space, arguing, screaming, yelling at each other. He is screaming obscenities at her in her face. To the best of my recollection, that is what happened. And she is in his face too. And like, don't talk about me that way. And I don't even know what she said, but she is an attorney. They're both attorneys. They're both litigators. And Stacy is an attorney that actually practiced trial law and would go into the courtrooms. So she is a very good like debater, orator, etc. And she is just laying right back into him, but certainly is more calm, certainly is more composed, certainly is not profanity laden like he was to her in her face. And that happens. So there's this big confrontation. I don't really recall even what it was over, but he was sort of trying to start stuff with everyone. That was kind of his MO. And then we do the challenge and we just lose. We just lose, I believe, pretty badly. And that is just what happened. We very quickly came up with a concept. It didn't roll out very good, and we just lost the challenge. And so we go to the boardroom for the first time. And that is where I first learned that people were expected to sit on the floor. I actually had forgotten an important part. When Donald Trump was assigning the task, he complimented me and he was like, oh, it's great to see you again, Andrea. And this is when he started saying stuff to the effect of, I don't even know why you guys are all here. She's going to win this show. The amount of experience she has, she's so successful, blah, blah, blah. He was just working people up. And I was just thinking, oh, fuck, these people are going to fucking hate me. And guess what? Spoiler alert, they did. After the first challenge, right before the second challenge started, like that night, I went back to the penthouse suite, which was beautiful. You guys, it was like the third floor of Trump Towers. We had the whole thing. It was set up like a movie set. And so the walls were only like this much taller than your head. So I'm indicating it on YouTube, but for people on audio, the walls were like 7 feet tall or something, almost like a cubicle. They were cubicles. So you could completely hear and see. There was no privacy. You could completely hear and see every single thing that's going on, every single place. And I already was just thinking like, this is so different than what I thought. I do not want to be here. So right back when we get back from the first reward, that night, I'm like interviewing people. I give like 5 and 10 minute interviews so that I know what everybody's skill set is, because you don't know when you're going to get called up to be the project manager. And I'm like, I'm not going to have this time to waste on 10-minute interviews with everyone or 15-minute interviews with everyone on my staff to understand what their skill set is to where they would be best placed. So kind of while other people were getting to know each other, I was understanding who everyone was. And then I was like, oh shit, my team just doesn't have a lot of experience, period. They just don't. We're all young. Most of them went to college and a lot of them got advanced degrees, which means if they're 26 or 24 or 25, they just got out of college. Just. So they haven't built some big career. They haven't run teams. They probably don't have an actual real world understanding of how to run a team, how to allocate your resources, all of the things that you need to do to start a company. They just simply hadn't done that yet. And again, I am not saying that they were not capable of doing it. I'm saying they just didn't have that much life experience yet. I had a ridiculous amount of life experience at 32 in running teams because I had started like 7 or 8 companies at this point, many of them multi-million-dollar companies. At the time that I was there, my company was doing like, I literally don't remember, somewhere between 10 and 20 million in revenue. I don't recall what it was on those particular years, but a lot. And so I was used to like starting things up really quick, telling people where to go. And also I was used to being able to just have my own team, my own employees, and I would fire people that underperform. And I am just saying, most of the people on my team, if I had interviewed them in a regular job interview process, I would never have hired them, period. I wouldn't have. And so all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I'm working with people that I just don't really like, also who have really big personalities, who have very much main character energy, like most people applying for a reality TV show would have, and who were far more concerned with the storyline of being on a reality TV show than they were of like conducting themselves with excellence in business, all of which makes sense. I was the weird one. I get that. But still, I was like, I really thought that I was going to be on here with all these heavy hitting entrepreneurs and like whatever, just not the case. So I'm like a bit disgruntled about that. And then there is this screaming fight where this guy is calling my friend to fucking see you next Tuesday and in her face and like spitting in her face because he was so close to her that that's what was happening. And then we get on task. I'm taking over basically as project manager. I didn't. Pepe still was project manager, but I was like overstepping him and just saying like, hey, go do this, go do this, go do this, so that it would get done. That's important for what happens in the boardroom. So I actually didn't even realize I was doing it until Pepe pointed it out in the boardroom that I was doing that. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds right. Sure. I agree. I probably was. And I really like Pepe. Hi, Pepe. So we do the task. The argument happens, we lose, we go to the boardroom for the first time. That is when I found out that you have to stand for hours if the boardroom is not ready. Now again, I don't know if it was that task or the next time that we lost a task, but I believe it was this time. And we had to wait just like for hours. And I am in my custom cut, custom made suits. I wasn't wearing this. I think I was wearing this beautiful, beautiful Prada skirt that I had bought that cost fucking $2,800. And I was like, I almost didn't buy it because I was trying on clothes at a fancy fucking place without like looking at the price tags. But then the saleswoman was like, well, do you like it? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she goes, you can get it if you want. And I'm like, Yeah, I'm super rich. I actually can, but I would not buy a skirt now for $2,800. But I was so disconnected with money that I did buy this beautiful, beautiful skirt. And if you're joining us on YouTube, we're doing a little bit of a fashion review. It actually wasn't a Gucci skirt, although I did buy a Gucci skirt. Do I still have all those clothes? Yeah. Yeah, I do. So it doesn't look as nice. Oh my God, it looks like something from Hot Topic, but when it's on, I swear to God, it is so sexy and so pretty. It's a beautiful, beautiful custom cut Dolce and Gabbana skirt, and it looks gorgeous on. It is hot in Arizona today, so I'm glad I got to show you the Dolce & Gabbana jacket, but I'm also glad that I am no longer wearing it, for those of you that are joining us on YouTube. So guys, here we are. We're about to go in the boardroom. It's my first experience with this, and we have to sit down on these cold ass marble tile floors in Trump Towers for however long it takes for production to get the shot ready. That could be 2 minutes, that could be 5 hours. I am wearing that beautiful Dolce & Gabbana skirt that I showed you, and like a whole outfit, the whole thing, and really high heels, because I always wear really high heels back then. And so they were like 4 or 5 inch tall heels, and I am already tall. So I'm like 5'10", so the heels that I was wearing at the time would make me like 6'3", 6'2", 6'3". And when I tell you everyone on my team was not super tall, except for Pepe, that's what I mean. But the women were not just not super tall, they were like they were short. I think the tallest one was like 5'2", and there was nothing wrong with that. Like my mom is 5'2". I'm not saying anything about that, but one of them was like a competitive gymnast. I think she was like 5 feet tall or something. So when I tell you I looked like a giant, towering over them in all of these pictures. The internet was unkind about that back then. So I'm standing there in my like 5-inch heels waiting to go into the boardroom. And again, I don't remember if this was the first boardroom or another boardroom. There's all the memories blur together. But finally, one of the guys came through and was like, hey, it's going to be such a long time before the boardroom. Like, not only are they not ready for you guys, they are really not ready for you guys. And I did find out later that it was like a psychological thing sometimes that they would do just to make people wait before going into a Mark Burnett show thing. So whether that's tribal council on Survivor or the boardroom on The Apprentice, because it gets people's nerves up. So just in the same way that there was a complete incredible lack of sleep and a complete availability of alcohol in the suite, which would make for certainly more interesting television. Also, there was this waiting period where it would just be like a large quantity of time sometimes that you were just sitting there in silence, waiting to go into a boardroom where someone would be fired. So a lot of people, I'm sure in that situation get in their heads. I would not, because I just was under a complete and total running assumption that I was going to win. And I know how that sounds. That's what I walked in the door with ish. But then I thought, well, fuck, once I meet the competition, like there's probably some XYZ people here. And then I met my competition and I was like, I got this in the bag. This is mine. I figured it would be me and Tarek in the end. And I think that Tarek figured that it would be me and Tarek in the end once we got to know each other and actually talk to each other. And so I'm like just annoyed and tired, basically. And after seeing this screaming match earlier and just the vibe of the whole thing and how cuckoo pants crazy it was and how crazy some of the people came across to me, I was like, what the fuck did I sign up for? I really don't want to be here. I already on the first night after the first task was expressing not wanting to be there. I was expressing it again after the reward challenge, but we're waiting to go in the second boardroom and I'm like, cool, like just roll with this, just get through whatever's next. So one of the producers comes in and was like, it's going to be a long time. And they're like, Andrea, sit down, because everyone else is just sitting on the floor. And I was like, no, this is a Dolce & Gabbana skirt. I am not sitting on the floor. Also, it's couture, so I can't sit on the floor. Like, it is fitted. It does have a little bit of stretch and a little bit of give to me, but it might literally split open if I bend down that far and sit on the floor. And I'm like, and you guys, this is just ridiculous. Can I please get a chair? But I asked in a much nicer way. And I want to be clear, even as fed up as I was with the situation, as I mentioned in a previous episode, like I was fascinated by the producers. I was like, how the fuck do you become an assistant producer in Hollywood? And so obviously over the years, I did find out how assistant producers were treated, and it was not nice back then. And it was just a lot of like gophering and running around and doing stuff, but that was how you broke your foot in the door to become an executive producer one day, or an actual producer, was by kind of putting in your time and running around and being an assistant producer and just managing whatever needed to get done. But I was so nice to all of them, of course, but I was just nice to everyone. So I looked at this producer and I was like, can I like just get a chair? Because I can't sit down in this skirt. It's going to rip, and I don't sit on the floor. And I most fucking certainly do not sit on the floor when I am wearing couture clothes. Like, this is ridiculous. So then, after my whole team already is really not liking me, and Donald Trump is getting in their ear about how I'm just gonna win and nobody can beat me, you guys, this executive producer went and got me a chair. Just me. Sorry, assistant producer. Just me. Nobody else. So I'm sitting in this chair, and then all of a sudden, like, some of the other women are asking for a chair, and they're like, no, we don't have any more chairs. We can't even find any. But those people perhaps were treating themselves like celebrities and being maybe less nice to the assistant producers, in my recollection, and they did not get chairs. So then I would just be sitting on a chair, and everybody else was on the floor. So if they already were not psyched about me and they already were concerned about whether or not they were going to beat me, that did not help, nor did what happened in the boardroom. So we get to the boardroom, and again, I'm not rewatching these episodes, so this is just from my memory. And spoiler alert, the boardroom is like 4 hours long, and it gets cut down anywhere from like maybe an hour and a half would be the shortest, which I don't think it ever was that short, but it's kind of hard to remember the time. And 4 hours would be probably the longest. And they would be asking different questions. The judges would be asking different questions of the different contestants, and then it would get, cut down into sound bites. Well, very much like Donald Trump still to this day, I can talk in sound bites. I actually talk very fluently in sound bites. It's why I am a slogan writer. And it's why I had 40% of the shelf space in Hot Topic, because funny one-liners are kind of my thing. And so I started to get more and more airtime on stuff just because I was really funny, and I would have these little funny one-liners in the boardroom. Plus also the production staff would call me their storyteller. They're like, we always have a storyteller in the season. We always have somebody that's just really capable of giving a, 15, 20, 30-second synopsis of what happened in a really clear and descriptive way. And you are the best person on your team at that. So you're probably going to have a lot of airtime during they were called OTFs, on the flies, where they would just take you for a private, like, one-on-one breakdown of what happened on the task. And in the boardroom, it was kind of the same. They just kept coming to me, and I would be really funny and have little one-liner responses. And Donald Trump really liked that. And he already really liked me from our meeting. And then we were doing something, like we had to wait for production to start a couple times before the actual boardroom would start. They would be getting like the shots right and the lighting correct for once the contestants came in. They had to like recalibrate the lighting really quickly. I would always just make everyone in the room laugh, especially, I don't know about the contestants, because I think a lot of people that were sitting on the same side of the table as I were kind of terrified. But I would make the judges laugh, and I would make Donald laugh, most importantly. And sometimes I could even hear the people in the production room laugh, because there was a production room right behind where Donald was sitting, where there were like windows, that were darked out so you couldn't see through them, but there would be cameras that would be filming through those windows. And so I would just say funny icebreaker stuff that would make everyone laugh, which of course was making Donald like me more and more, because he actually was really funny and had really good one-liners also. And so we go into the boardroom, and basically the people that are on the firing line are Pepe, because he was the project manager, Brett, because he was annoying, and Stacy, because she got in this argument with Brett. And so, of course, we all just wanted Brett to leave so that we could get on with actually doing the tasks, because he was just a hindrance to getting anything done, because he was doing all these things just to get airtime, not to be helpful, in my perception. And so I thought for sure, because I didn't sort of understand how reality TV worked. And remember, this is really, really early days reality TV. This is 2005. And so reality TV didn't even really understand yet how reality TV worked. So he's just arguing and yelling and just being obnoxious in the boardroom. And that makes great television, great television. And Stacy is arguing back with him in the boardroom and really trying to set the record straight because she's like being slandered in there. Because I'm sure in her mind, she's like, he got in my face and was spitting in my face, which I'm pretty sure she actually did say, and was screaming obscenities at me. Like, of course I responded to this. Actually, I'm really surprised that it wasn't Pepe that was fired in that one, not for any reason that he did anything wrong, but just because Stacy was arguing back, which makes for great television. But I was just not on the chopping block. It was clear that I wasn't on the chopping block. When I was asked stuff, I would say funny things. And then Trump would cut to me and do his like, so Andrea, you're a self-made multimillionaire. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, I obviously think we should get rid of Brett, which made him dislike me. That's important later. We are going to end this on the drama, kiddos, because I have enough time to tell the last story. I was going to do this in the first part of the next episode, but we will end on the drama. So, long story short, Stacy ends up getting fired. Stacy goes and lives a fabulous life. She's fine. We go back to the boardroom and I have some mini confrontation with Brett. He's just being annoying and I already am annoyed and I already want to leave. And this is like a fucking clown show to me, the way that it's being done. And I'm like, this is just so ridiculous. This guy is so obnoxious. I am so unimpressed. And I know that he's a lawyer, but I was like, how even did you get your law degree? Where did you go? Which is that's a mean thing to say because it's hard to pass the bar exam. And he did do that. But then I found out when I did like my little mini interviews that he was like working as a notary at the time. And I know how much a notary makes because I was an escrow officer for a tiny little period of time when I was like 23 or 24 and we would hire notaries all the time. And you could actually make really good money as a notary back then, but it is not the same thing as using your law degree to be a lawyer. But it was really smart for him because it's a fucking so much money for so little effort. And in some states, like you have to have a notary to notarize documents, but it comes in important later that I understand how much he makes. So Stacy gets fired. We go back to the suite. All that I want to do is sleep. It is so late at night. And to this day, I am early to bed, early to rise. I go to bed probably like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And I wake up at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That is obnoxious. One of my very good friends pointed out to me that 3:30 in the morning is actually not the morning. It's actually the middle of the night. Hi, Yael. She's right about that. I don't disagree with that. I'm like 4 in the morning maybe is the morning. 3:30 is very much for sure not the morning. Rico. All I want to do is go to bed. And that is not an option. They're like, no, you're filming right now. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's been such a long day. It's been since like 4 o'clock. It's probably 10 o'clock at night. And they're like, no, we need you for an on the fly so that you can tell us, so that you can be like the storyteller and encapsulate what happened in the boardroom. I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. I'm all over the things. I have never not had 100% complete control over my decisions. Never in my life. Like if I want to go to bed, I go to bed. Really, I did like have short stints at a job and I did have bosses at those jobs that would tell me what to do, but I always had the freedom to leave that job, right? I wasn't obligated. I didn't have a household to support. I didn't have children to support. I was a free bird. And so I could fly far away. And when I did take jobs, it literally was for the specific purpose of I needed more money so that I could put it into the businesses that I was building. So when I was an escrow officer, I did that at like one place for 4 months. Then I did that in another place for like 6 or 7 months. And I would just get increasingly higher and higher paying jobs so that I could afford to launch my t-shirt line. And so I am not having any of this right now. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, then like, can I, cause I know it's going to be 2 more hours at least. And I wanted to go like get a latte because they had a Starbucks downstairs that was just about to close. They're like, no, we can't spare anybody to go downstairs with you. And I'm like, it's cool. I can find my way downstairs myself and get a latte. Like I'm super capable of doing that. But the answer just was no. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So I'm just getting more and more frustrated and more annoyed. And I'm sitting there with this producer, Patrick. And to the best of my recollection, this is what happened. He's asking me questions and I'm like, I just want to leave. This is so fucking different than what I thought it was going to be. And I hate it here. And I just don't care. And I don't need to be on TV. I've fucking $1 million in the bank. Like, I don't even know why I decided to do this. Like, I just want to leave. And he was like, well, you can do that if you want, but we're going to follow you around with cameras and we're going to make you look crazy. And someone who is very similar to my personality, who I befriended, that was on the season after me, because spoiler alert, season 5, which was supposed to be the last season, was actually not the last season. So they did another one like in Los Angeles, and this chick I know was on there, and she did decide to leave like after the first task, and she thinks it's just different than what I thought, whatever. And yeah, they followed her all the fucking way with cameras. And remember, they have your credit card, they have your ID, they have every single way that you can escape has been shut off from you. She, however, I believe was filming in her city so she could like get home somehow. But they made her look not good. I didn't think she looked bad at all because I know the situation, but they edited it to make it look like she couldn't cut it and she couldn't handle it and like whatever, which is of course what they would have done if I actually left. So I feel trapped, and I mean truly trapped, possibly for the first time in my adult life. I felt like this a lot when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, and like high school felt like fucking prison to me. Junior high school, even worse, because that's when I was getting bullied. And I just so humongously, hugely coveted and valued my freedom of movement, freedom of choice of what I'm going to do with my time, freedom of all manner of decision over my life. And all of a sudden, I felt like you fucking signed that away, because I did. So when I tell you at this time in my life that I was not a crier, I was not a crier. And when I tell you at this time in my life that when I did cry, it was not in public, KK, or in front of other people ever at all, because I had this whole fucking hardcore perfectionist thing going on. I already thoroughly canvassed that in part 1 of Secrets of the Apprentice. Like, I can tell that I am just about to lose it. Like, I was not a crier to the extent that I did not cry at my dad's funeral. Okay, super sad, did not cry. Cried later at home. That's how sort of regulated I was about my emotions. So I can tell I'm just gonna start crying, which is a no for me. And there's nothing I can do about it, because I am suddenly realizing very much that Patrick was right. And Patrick, by the fucking way, was being really kind to me by letting me know that. He was not saying this in a threatening way. He was saying this in like, not like a conspiratorial way, but like I'm telling you a secret here. Like we will follow you. That will be part of the show. Everything that happens from this point forward is part of the show. And I was like, fuck me. So I feel super duper trapped. And I'm like, fuck, okay, well, the only place that I can go is the bathroom. And I am mic'd. I think I maybe even turned my mic off, which is a huge fucking no-no, but I don't think I did, because I think they had the audio from it, or they superimposed audio of someone crying. I don't know. Because I do think I turned my mic off, because I think I got in trouble for turning my mic off. And I would like, it's in trouble. So I go into the bathroom and I'm crying just like by myself, where there's no story there. Like, you could film outside the door, but I am pretty sure my mic was turned off. So there's no story other than that I went into the bathroom very quickly. So they send in Roxanne, and this is where I started to dislike Roxanne. And Roxanne is great. Like, she's like a public speaker now, and I don't even know what she's doing now, but the last time I looked up, she had I think even a book release, and like, she's fantastic. But she was on reality TV, and she wanted to have camera time on reality TV, or maybe she had good intentions, but from what happened next, my speculation was no. So I'm crying by myself in the bathroom, which I know, I can tell because I'm smart and I'm looking at shit. And I can tell that if like nobody else is around to make a story, there's no story. And I kind of can see what is the most likely, most compelling stuff that would go on a TV show. How do I know that? How the fuck do I know that? I don't know, because I don't own a TV, but just in the same way that I've sold $400 million worth of merchandise, because I know what people buy. Like, you can put in front of me 200 designs and I will pull out the 5 or 7 or 10 that are going to be the best selling designs of a thing. And in the same way, I just have that eye of like, oh, this is going to be compelling content. Oh, this might get a little bit boring, whatever. You might disagree with my long ass podcast, but do you know who this podcast is made for? Women like me who talked on the phone with their girlfriends for 5 hours a night in the 80s. And in the 90s. And they like a long format story. Gen Xers, that's who this is built for. And everyone prefers to consume content in different ways. And I'm sort of like getting the vibe very quickly of what's going to work on reality TV. The producers send in Roxanne to talk to me, because that will make a story. I am very clearly crying, and I'm crying in a way where I cannot hide that I am crying. I can't even sound like I'm not crying, because I'm just devastated. I'm like, I'm trapped here. What have I done to myself? Why did I do this? I have a perfect life. I don't need to be public. I don't need to be out there. I'm already making like millions and millions of dollars. The dream is dreamt. I have already done the things. I don't need to be here, is what I'm thinking. And I'm so upset that I have agreed to do this. And I'm realizing in that moment that I need to just fully commit to it, because there's no way I'm going to walk away, because I, in that moment, saw very clearly exactly how they would edit me, and it was not good. And so they send Roxanne in, and I very clearly explained to Roxanne, please just go away. I just need a minute, and they can't use this for TV unless you are in here talking to me through the door. So please just go away. So she goes away. Then she comes back, and I was like, Roxanne, just go away. because they can't use this unless you keep coming to the door. But I'm sure that she has producers that are telling her to come back in. Obviously, it makes for very good television. You see it all the time on like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Well, I'd never seen reality TV, and I didn't realize how crazy it was until I was on it. And then I send her away and she goes away. And then she comes back again. Yeah, and guess what? They used it on the air. But in reality, what she was doing was being on reality TV. Like, she understood the assignment and got a lot of screen time doing that. But then it was cut into the TV show as if I was crying because Stacey got fired. And I was so pissed when I saw that in the episode. I was like, I was having an existential crisis. I was crying over something. I didn't cry at my dad's funeral. Do you think that I would cry when one of the contestants who must be fired in order for me to win this show got fired? That's going to make me sad. 0% chance. Do you think that I am not emotionally unresilient or tender or whatever? Like, give me a fucking break. I'm crying because my friend got fired. My friend that I've known for all of like 5 days. Just no. 0% is that why I was upset at all whatsoever, obvi. So that was what happened there. And that led in to all of the things that happened on episode 3 and episode 4, which we will begin to cover on the next episode of Andrea Lake 101, The Making of a Billionaire, Secrets from The Apprentice. And by the fucking way, I did not know that The Apprentice actually was going to air while I was starting to do this podcast, nor did I know that my biggest competitor over at Sticker Mule was going to fire 68 people, then the next day go to Mar-a-Lago and give Donald Trump a $275,000, allegedly, that's what it was reported in some newspaper in the town that he lives, $275,000 bronze statue, and then release a newspaper article saying that this meant like more jobs on the day he fired 68 people, and that he was going to automate and just run things with robots from now on, and just have his love for Donald Trump be so front and center that it got covered on the Jimmy Kimmel show. And at the same time that my season of The Apprentice airs, you cannot make this shit up. So I was talking to May Fox, who is the author of my book and co-author. We're writing it together, but she's doing the actual writing, and I go in and edit and add my little 2 cents and tell her all the stories. I was like, this is why the book is called You're Gonna Think I'm a Pathological Liar, because do you know the combination of circumstances and events that have to line up in exactly the same way? I am going to the Milken Institute in 2 weeks. I was at the Milken Institute in 2006, the night that The Apprentice that I got fired on aired. Like, there's so many things are coming around in these really weird, really random circles that it is almost impossible to believe the coincidences that are happening, which is why I'm like, I never really thought about like, do we live in a simulation? Do we not live in a simulation? But like, do I create my own reality? Is the universe like unfolding before me in bigger ways than I could possibly imagine? I've always believed that, but to see in real life the level of coincidence and crazy intertwined stories that are happening in my life right now as I just step up and show up and do my best every day, it is bonkers. It is cuckoo pants crazy, the volume of coincidences that are happening right now. And I'm excited to see what happens next. So stay tuned. I was going to do an update week next week on the pod, and then an Apprentice episode the week after that, but I think I'll probably actually reverse those and not leave you on so much of a cliffhanger, because it gets really juicy in part 4 of Secrets from the Apprentice. I am going to record that in about an hour, and I am going to be having a glass of wine while I record that, because it is a lot for me to do this sober. Okay, KK? I hope you guys are awesome, and I will catch you next time. And again, give us a like, give us a follow. Please give us a 5-star rating on wherever you're hearing this podcast at. Leave a comment, ask questions. I still am in the phase where I read all of the questions myself. I respond to them myself. I hope you're having a super fabo day. If you're not following me on Instagram, please follow me at Andrea Lake 101 on Instagram and whatever other social media platforms that you are on. And I'll see you guys next time.